It's fairly safe at this point to say that 2020 has not been a good year. In fact, it's been a bit of a disaster. And the running joke at the moment is that everyone will be staying up till midnight on December the 31st, not to see the new year in, but to make sure the old one leaves. But, of course, no magical reset is going to occur in January. Things will probably continue to be tough for some time. Or, if some famous prophecies are to be believed, 2020 might just be as good as it's going to get for a while and will pale in comparison to what lies ahead. The reality is no one knows what the next 12 months will bring. People are generally optimistic at this time of new beginnings and fresh starts, and that's all good and well. But these prophecies, taken in the context of the state of the world at present, should serve as a cautionary reminder, if not an outright warning, of what the future could hold. Welcome to Top 10 Event YouTube channel. Subscribe, like and bell the notification button to get new videos. Top 10 dire predictions for 2021. Number 10. Celebrity Heartbreak. A jeweler roused to fame when he predicted the current coronavirus pandemic 2 years before it struck, and he's been at it again, claiming that he's had psychic visions of romantic turmoil in the near future for certain celebrities, namely Tom Cruise, Natalie Portman, and, surprise surprise, Kim Kardashian. He's also predicted continued drama for the British royal family. Is he psychic or perhaps just playing it safe, trying to cement his prophetic reputation by predicting the highly likely? Who can say for sure? One certain thing is that if even some of his guesses hit the mark, a jeweler will be the first to say, "I told you so." A book will probably follow. Maybe a movie. Or, considering our next entry, maybe not. Number 9. Goodbye California. Cruise and co are not the only A-listers due for a bumpy 2021, according to the legendary physician, astrologer, and seer, Nostradamus. The Frenchman's well-known 1555 collection of prophetic poetry contains hundreds of future forecasts, and, if his predictions prove correct, as they so often have before, then 2021 could very well see the destruction of the entire state of California. As with all of Nostradamus' prophecies, this one is subject to interpretation. But, since it references great calamity in the lands of the West, there are quite a few out there who believe the man was speaking about the obliteration of the western seaboard of the United States. And with California's precarious position, perched on several major fault lines as it is, the logical conclusion here is that said calamity will arrive by way of a massive earthquake. Number 8. World leader Woes. Nostradamus was not the only well-known prophet to make predictions for 2021. The blind Bulgarian mystic commonly known as Baba Vanga had quite a bit to say about the year ahead as well. And, since so many of her foretellings have already come true, her words are not to be taken lightly. Deceased for nearly a quarter of a century now, Baba Vanga nevertheless singled out soon-to-be ex-US President Donald Trump and Russian head Vladimir Putin for a torrid time in 2021. She claimed that Putin will face an attempted assassination, most likely from an enemy within the Kremlin, and Trump will be struck by a mysterious illness that will render him deaf. Number 7. Worries and weather. So far, 2021 isn't looking too bad, as long as you're not a politician, celebrity, or resident of California. But, just before the rest of us breathe a sigh of relief, both Nostradamus and Baba Vanga provided unpleasant weather forecasts for the year ahead, along with earthquakes. The French seer told us we can expect widespread flooding and solar storms. Baba Vanga, too, was of the general opinion that we will see severe weather-related occurrences with some frequency throughout 2021. These predictions may have seemed outlandish at the times they were made, but you can't watch the news these days without hearing the words climate change and sustainable development. Number 6. The Fall of Europe. One of Barbara Vanger's previous accurate predictions involved the rise of Islamic extremism and, according to her, things will reach a climax in 2021 when the Arab population conquers the continent of Europe. Nostradamus weighed in on the matter as well, and while the specifics differ between the two predictions, they both seem to strongly suggest that the year coming will see the obliteration of Europe. Again, these forecasts become all the more chilling when one considers the ongoing refugee crisis in the region and general rising racial and religious tensions the world over. The recent conflict between the predominantly Christian Armenia and Muslim Azerbaijan could have been just a small taste of things to come. Number 5. Cyborg Soldiers. Once the topic of science fiction stories and far-fetched fantasy, human-machine integration has become a reality and is rapidly on the rise. Remarkable, then, that Nostradamus appeared to predict the advent of cyborg soldiers in 2021, nearly 600 years ago. As disturbing as the notion of an army of cyborg soldiers is, there is some good news here. According to the French astrologer, they will come to save us. However, he seems to suggest that they will be American and, given the country's history of unwanted military intervention, such saving is perhaps something the world could do without. What's truly remarkable here is that there is currently rapid advancement in human-machine hybrid technology and that its military applications are the ones being most aggressively explored. Number 4. Asteroid Encounter. There sure is a lot to worry about for 2021 and, in case you're keeping track, you can add in a potential asteroid strike. Potential, because the man who made the prediction, Nostradamus, yes, him again, isn't clear on whether or not the celestial body will actually strike the Earth, saying only, in the sky, one sees fire and a long trail of sparks. That doesn't sound too bad. But then, the event is not necessarily a disaster in itself, but rather a kind of harbinger of the general doom and gloom we can expect in 2021. But if a giant asteroid was heading our way, wouldn't we already know about it? Why, yes, we would. And we do. NASA is currently tracking a large meteor called 2009 KF1, and current trajectory analysis projects a decent chance that the comet could collide with our poor planet on May 6, 2021. Number 3. Biblical Famine. The takeaway message from many of the above predictions seems to be that we are heading towards the end of days. Nostradamus predicted that along with these many trials and tribulations we can expect famine on a biblical scale, and the Bible itself, in the book of Revelation, claims the same. We've already been visited by pestilence, after all, so the next horseman due is famine. It's easy to laugh off these apocalyptic predictions. They've been made many times before, after all, and that is sure to continue. But, as we see the devastating effects of climate change on global food production and the ever-growing reports of pandemic-related supply chain disruptions and shortages, you would be forgiven if this laughter is of the nervous, uncertain variety. And, as the shelves in the grocery stores grow ever emptier, the laughter may well soon cease altogether. Number 2. Return of the Messiah. So, it seems the world is set to end in 2021. If you won't take Nostradamus' word for it, fear not. An unlikely collaboration between mathematicians and biblical scholars bears out this dire forecast. Richard Shaw's documentary film The Torah Codes Enter Darkness popularized the Da Vinci Code-like idea of finding hidden signs and symbols in ancient texts. And one interpretation of the apparent prophecy hidden within the writings of the Old Testament is that 2021 will see the coming of the Jewish Messiah. Rabbi Galtserson has taken this idea and run with it becoming somewhat of a minor YouTube celebrity in the process. He claims that the end of days began in 2016 and will culminate in 2021 with the second coming of Christ. Number 1. Zombie apocalypse. Oh yes, just in case you thought 2021 couldn't get any worse, we have zombies to worry about as well. If one interpretation of a certain quatrain in Nostradamus' prophetic writing comes to pass, then we are soon going to find ourselves living out an episode of The Walking Dead. While the text merely references half-dead young people and the end of the world and can be read in several ways, there are those who take it literally and believe the Frenchman was warning us of a biological weapon that would turn the majority of the human race into the living dead. Popular fiction of late has so inundated us with depictions of this scenario that it's perhaps not too surprising that we leap so readily to this conclusion.